Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm here with a video for the Kwanzaa ReflectAthon run by Njeri over at Onyx Pages. Njeri is a really wonderful person and her channel is amazing, and she very kindly asked me if I would be interested in participating in the Kwanzaa ReflectAthon this year, and I said yes. I think it's a great idea, it's a great project. Kwanzaa is a holiday that lasts for 7 days, and each day focuses on one of 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And so what Njeri asked me and the other people participating to do is to reflect on our reading over the last year during 2019 and talk about some books that embody or reflect each of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And if you guys are interested in doing this, I would invite you to do so as well if you want to make a video or participate in some other way. I think it's just a really cool idea, a cool way to reflect back on your reading for the year coming up to the end of it. So thank you so much to Njeri for asking me to be a part of this. I'm very excited about it, and with that, let's go ahead and get into the prompts. Principle number 1 is Umoja, or unity. And for this, she asked us to talk about a book that centers the upliftment of African-descended folks. For Umoja, I thought that the perfect book that I read in 2019 that fits with this is Slay by Brittney Morris. I really love this. It's her YA debut that follows a young African-American girl who has developed a virtual reality video game that is intended to be a safe space for Black gamers and a game that celebrates Black culture, Black icons through history. And it's this really beautiful idea and beautiful game, but then when a player of the game dies and it makes national news, there starts to be a lot of conversation about whether this is a racist video game because only Black people are allowed to join. It's a really rich and I think powerful book that offers a really nuanced discussion of a lot of important issues. But the reason that I thought it was great for this is that Slay itself, the video game, is really about the upliftment and empowerment of African-descended people all across the world, and in fact we get little snippets of perspectives from different players of the game who do live in different countries all over the world and come from different parts of the African diaspora with different experiences and backgrounds. And so for the unity theme, I thought that this was really perfect because I think that's what Slay the video game is really trying to embody. The second principle of Kwanzaa is Kujichagulia, or self-determination. And the prompt for this day is to select a book with an African-descended LGBTQ character who inspired you because they were determined AF. So for this principle, my pick is The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis. This is a debut YA book that I really loved. It's kind of being pitched as Westworld meets The Handmaid's Tale, and it features a diverse girl gang who are out for revenge in this sort of Western style adventure, and there are angry ghosts, and it deals with sex trafficking, and it's just really rich and really good, but also a whole lot of fun. And the main character who we get most of the perspectives through is Aster, who is a queer woman of color who is just completely determined to save her younger sister from this life that they had been sold into, working in a pleasure house, is determined to find revenge, is determined to get the things that she wants out of life. And I just absolutely loved her as a character, and I thought that she was the perfect pick for self-determination. She shows a lot of courage and self-determination and is just so inspiring as a character, and wanted to share this book with you guys for day 2. The third principle of Kwanzaa is Ujima, which means collective work and responsibility. The prompt for this is to talk about a book in which a diverse group of characters worked together toward a goal. And the book that I read in 2019 that I thought fit this really well was Into the Drowning Deep by Mira. This is kind of like a slow build horror novel, and I absolutely loved it. Mira, who also writes under Seanan McGuire, is known for writing these really richly diverse cast of characters, and Into the Drowning Deep is no different. And that is one of the things that I so appreciate about it. It's diverse in terms of race, in terms of sexual orientation and gender identity, disability. Like, she has some really great representation in here of sisters who use ASL because they are deaf. So yeah, I just think that this is really great in terms of having a diverse collection of people, and in this case they're all on a scientific expedition to find these mermaids or sirens who might live in the Mariana Trench, except that they turn out to be very, very dangerous killer mermaids. And so you have this diverse collection of people who are working together towards the goal of finding, discovering, and learning about these mermaids, and then maybe eventually a smaller group of them having the communal goal of trying to then survive the killer mermaids. But in terms of like community action and working together and bringing together people from diverse experiences and backgrounds, I think that this is a really great pick. The fourth principle of Kwanzaa is Ujamaa, which is Cooperative Economics. And for this, we were asked to select a book that got you thinking about sharing economic resources. For 2019, the book that I selected for this principle is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. This is a debut sort of portal fantasy book that's set in early America, but it also has a lot of really interesting themes that it's dealing with. The main character in the book is a biracial young girl who faces a lot of racism and oppression because of the way that she looks, even though she's being fostered by a very wealthy man. And one of the things that's interesting in this book is that there is a group of these very wealthy, powerful people who are just constantly trying to take more for themselves, to acquire more power, more magic, more money, and at the expense of other people being oppressed and on the backs of other people who are being oppressed. And so this is a book that really got me thinking about some of those issues in terms of class and power and wealth and finances, and what does that mean when somebody's power and wealth is coming at the expense of other people and by oppressing other people, and how much that is a problem. And so this has a lot of things going in it, but that is one of the themes that's explored here, and it's something that really got me thinking about it. The fifth principle of Kwanzaa is Nia, or purpose. And for this principle, we were asked to select a book in which an African-descended character found or developed their purpose. My pick for this principle of Kwanzaa is Rebel by Beverly Jenkins. This is a really wonderful historical romance. This year I've discovered Beverly Jenkins as a historical romance author, and I love what she does. She puts so much history into her books, and she does a ton of research to bring to the front history that has been lost or isn't often talked about, the history of people of color in different times and places, and then inserts them into these really great romances. So you end up learning a lot. It's like have a little history lesson along with like a fun kind of steamy romance. And in Rebel, our main character, Valinda Lacey, has gone down to New Orleans to try to teach reading and writing to newly freed slaves. This is just post-Civil War, when a lot of slaves had never been taught these things, and now that they're freed, it's affecting their employment options, it's affecting their potential livelihood and their lives. And this book is kind of her process of going down there, trying to free herself from the grip of her sort of abusive father and the things that he wants her to do and he wants her life to look like, and finding her own self, her own sense of purpose in her desire to help others and teach them and allow them to have better lives. And that maybe that looks like falling in love with somebody who doesn't try to control her and rather empowers her to be who she is. And I just think that's really, really beautiful. It's a wonderful love story, but it's also a great story about purpose. The sixth principle of Kwanzaa is Kumbaa, or creativity. And for this, we were asked to talk about a book in which an African-descended character demonstrated power through creativity. Definitely the first book that came to mind that I read in 2019 for this prompt was a middle grade novel. This is Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky by Kwame Mbalia. This is a really great debut middle grade in the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, and I love this imprint because what it's doing is it's bringing to life these own voices mythology stories for middle grade readers, like adventure stories based in mythology. And this one combines African American mythology and African mythology. So you have Anansi the Spider, you have John Henry, you have Brer Rabbit and others, and the main character is this boy from Chicago who kind of falls into another world. And the reason that I think it's perfect for this is that his power in this other world comes from storytelling. And I think that's really interesting. And the way that it's culturally rooted in his African ancestry is really interesting. And that's where power and magic comes from, is in telling stories and remembering history, and that's where the power and magic comes from. So I think this is definitely a great recommendation for that principle. The seventh and final principle of Kwanzaa is imani, or faith. And for this principle, we were asked to talk about a book that strengthened your faith. And so this was an interesting one. I had a couple of things that that were possibilities, but the one that seemed, I think, most appropriate for this was How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. So this is part essay collection, part memoir, and I just think it's so impactful and so powerful. It's one of my favorite books that I read in 2019. I would recommend anybody to read it. One of the reasons that I would say that this really strengthened my faith is that I think Ibram X. Kendi has a very strong vision of what he thinks that the world could be and could look like if people in different areas of the world and in different ways chose to live anti-racist lives and think in anti-racist ways. And for him, it's not enough to just not be racist. There's no such thing as that. You are either racist, either actively or inactively, but racist or anti-racist, that it's an active choice. And yeah, anyway, it's really interesting. But he has like such a strong vision of possibility. And I think for me, as a person of faith that identifies as a Christian and has really struggled in the last years with coming to terms with my experience of what sometimes the church has been versus who the God that I believe in is, and where those differences are. Part of that process for me has been figuring out, like, okay, like what does it mean? What does faith now mean and look like for me, and what are the things the God that I believe in cares about? For me, part of that has been exploring theology surrounding oppression and racism, and what does it mean to have like a faith-based approach to being against those things, to being anti-racist, to being feminist, to being against homophobia, and how do those things work together? And so this book, I think, for me this year was an instrumental part of that process for me of figuring out what those things look like and how there could be hope for the future and how there could be possibility, and that for me, a part of that is rooted in my faith. And so I would definitely recommend this to anybody to read. I think it's really, really interesting, and it's not specifically focused on faith, but I think just in my reading of it and in the way I was thinking about some of the issues that are brought to the forefront in it, that was really part of where it impacted me. So there you go. Those are the 7 books that I wanted to share with you guys for the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. I hope that this video was interesting and helpful, and hopefully you'll go back and kind of reflect on your own reading over the last year and the ways that it's interacted with these principles that I think are really valuable and really important. And I love all of these books. I would recommend them to you if you're interested in reading these sorts of things. I think they all have so much of value to offer. So talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know any of your thoughts on this. If you guys have watched any of the other Kwanzaa ReflectAthon videos, your thoughts on how maybe these books embody it. And for your question of the day, give me one of your recommendations. Pick one or more than one of the principles of Kwanzaa and tell me what's a book that you read in 2019 that you feel like really embodies that principle. I would love to hear from you. And definitely go and check out all of the other videos. Thank you so much to Njeri for including me. I will, of course, link her channel down below, and there's lots of other people participating as well who I think will probably have great things to say. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.